There is a reason you clicked on this video. Not because of luck. Not because of coincidence. And definitely not because this title randomly appeared in front of you. Something about it pulled your attention so strongly that you stopped scrolling. Now, before you make any assumptions, listen carefully. This is not a story about becoming rich overnight. This is not a story about winning a lottery. This is a story about a connection so unexpected, so unbelievable, that if somebody told you this a few months ago, you would have laughed and moved on. But tonight, I want you to imagine something. Imagine waking up one morning and discovering that your ordinary routine is about to collide with someone the entire world already knows. A famous person. A person with millions of followers. A person whose face appears everywhere. A person people dream about meeting just once. And somehow, out of all the people in the world, your path crosses with theirs. At first, it feels impossible. Because that's how extraordinary moments always begin. They arrive disguised as impossibilities. Think about your life for a second. How many times have you looked at someone successful and thought, people like that live in a completely different world? A different reality. A different universe. But what if that belief is exactly what has been holding you back from seeing what is possible? What if the biggest opportunities enter your life when you stop placing yourself beneath other people? Because here's a secret most people never learn. Famous people are still people. Behind every spotlight is a human being. Behind every headline is a real heart. Behind every perfect image is a person searching for connection. And that is where this story begins. Not with fame. Not with fortune. But with a mysterious encounter. An encounter nobody sees coming. Picture this. You're having a normal day. Nothing unusual. Nothing dramatic. Then one small decision changes everything. A message. A comment. An invitation. A chance meeting. A random event you almost didn't attend. The kind of moment most people ignore. Yet that tiny moment becomes the first domino. The first step toward something that feels unreal. And here's the shocking part. When extraordinary opportunities arrive, they rarely announce themselves. They don't arrive with fireworks. They arrive quietly. So quietly that most people miss them. That is why silence matters. That is why keeping quiet matters. Because the moment people hear something unbelievable, they rush to tell everyone. And the more they talk, the more energy they waste. The more doubt enters the situation. The more negativity surrounds it. Have you ever noticed that some of the biggest successes happen in private before they happen in public? That's not an accident. Power grows in silence. Dreams grow in silence. Relationships grow in silence. The strongest beginnings are often invisible. Now imagine meeting someone everyone recognizes. At first, they're not impressed by status. They're not impressed by popularity. They already have enough of that. What catches their attention is something far rarer. Authenticity. The ability to be real. The ability to speak without pretending. The ability to make them forget the spotlight for a few moments. And suddenly, something strange happens. The distance between worlds disappears. The celebrity and the stranger become two human beings having a conversation. Nothing more. Nothing less. That is where real connections begin. Not with fame. Not with fan behavior. But with honesty. Now I want you to think about this carefully. If somebody famous walked into the room right now, how would you react? Most people would panic. Most people would try too hard. Most people would become somebody else. But the people who create unforgettable impressions do the opposite. They stay themselves. Because confidence is magnetic. Not arrogance. Not ego. Confidence. The quiet belief that your value does not depend on who is standing in front of you. And that belief changes everything. The world teaches people to chase attention. But attention is cheap. Connection is rare. And when genuine connection appears, it can rewrite entire futures. That is why some of the most unbelievable relationships in history began with simple conversations. Not grand gestures. Not dramatic speeches. Simple conversations. One moment. One smile. One unexpected interaction. And suddenly two completely different worlds are connected. Now here's the part nobody talks about. The moment something extraordinary begins happening in your life, people around you may not understand it. Some will doubt it. Some will laugh. Some will tell you it can never happen. That is exactly why silence becomes your greatest ally. Not because you're hiding. Because you're protecting. Protecting possibilities before they become reality. Protecting dreams before they become achievements. Protecting connections before they become permanent. The strongest trees grow underground before anyone sees them above the surface. Remember that. The world celebrates results. But results are born in private. Every success. Every breakthrough. Every unforgettable love story. First existed where nobody could see it. Now imagine months from now. Imagine looking back at today. Looking back at this exact moment. And realizing that what seemed impossible was never impossible at all. It simply required patience. Courage. And the willingness to believe that your life was capable of surprising you. Because sometimes the most unbelievable chapter isn't the one you plan. It's the one that unexpectedly finds you. The chapter that begins with curiosity. The chapter that begins with a chance encounter. The chapter that begins with a conversation nobody else thought mattered. And then one day, everyone is shocked. Not because the opportunity appeared, but because they never saw it coming. Yet you did. Because you understood something important. Extraordinary things often arrive disguised as ordinary moments. So pay attention. Stay observant. Stay confident. Stay open to possibilities. And most importantly, keep moving forward without announcing every step. Some stories become powerful because they are protected while they grow. Some opportunities become real because they are given space to breathe. And some connections become unforgettable because they begin quietly. Very quietly. So if life presents you with an unexpected opportunity, if a surprising conversation enters your world, if an unbelievable connection starts forming where you least expect it, don't rush. Don't panic. Don't tell the entire world. Just smile. Stay grounded. Trust the process. And remember this message. Because sometimes the most extraordinary chapters begin with silence. And by the time everyone else notices, the story has already changed your life forever. And what if I told you that the story does not become unbelievable when you meet this person? What makes it unbelievable is what happens after. Because meeting someone famous is rare. But having them remember you? That is where everything changes. Think about that for a moment. Every single day, famous people meet hundreds of faces. Thousands of names. Endless conversations. Most are forgotten within hours. Yet every once in a while, somebody appears who stands out without trying. Not because they are louder. Not because they are richer. Not because they are more attractive. But because they leave a feeling behind. And feelings are unforgettable. Imagine walking away from an ordinary conversation. You think nothing special happened. You replay the moment in your mind and tell yourself that it was nice, but probably meaningless. Then days pass. A week passes. And suddenly something unexpected happens. A message arrives. A notification. A second opportunity. A reason to reconnect. Now listen carefully. Most people destroy opportunities at this stage. They become impatient. They become desperate. They begin forcing outcomes. But the strongest connections are never forced. They unfold naturally. Almost mysteriously. Like pieces of a puzzle finding their place. And this is where the story becomes shocking. Because while everybody else is chasing attention from this famous person, you are building something different. Trust. The one thing money cannot buy. The one thing fame cannot manufacture. The one thing that remains valuable no matter how successful someone becomes. Trust. When trust appears, walls begin falling. Conversations become deeper. Laughter becomes easier. The connection becomes stronger. And suddenly you begin seeing a side of them that the world never sees. Not the celebrity. Not the public image. Not the carefully managed version shown online. The real person. The person behind the spotlight. The person who sometimes feels exhausted. The person who sometimes feels misunderstood. The person who wishes people saw them as human. And that changes everything. Because the moment someone feels understood, they become comfortable. The moment they become comfortable, they become authentic. And authenticity creates bonds that surprise everyone. Now picture this. One evening, you're having a conversation. Nothing dramatic. Nothing cinematic. Just two people talking. But something shifts. You notice it. They notice it. Neither of you says it out loud. Yet the energy feels different. The connection feels stronger. The conversation lasts longer. And for the first time, you begin wondering whether this is becoming more than friendship. That thought scares you. Not because it is impossible, but because it feels too good to be true. And that's exactly when doubt arrives. Doubt always appears before breakthroughs. Always. It whispers questions. What if you're imagining this? What if it means nothing? What if it never happens? But here's what most people don't understand. Doubt is not proof that something is impossible. It is proof that something matters. If you didn't care, you wouldn't feel nervous. If the opportunity wasn't significant, you wouldn't be thinking about it. The greatest moments often arrive disguised as uncertainty. And that's why patience becomes your secret weapon. Not rushing. Not forcing. Not chasing. Simply allowing things to develop. Now imagine that weeks turn into months. The connection continues growing. You learn more about them. They learn more about you. And something extraordinary happens. The gap between celebrity and ordinary person completely disappears. You stop seeing fame. They stop seeing labels. And for the first time, both of you are simply yourselves. That is where real relationships begin. Not when the world is watching. When nobody is watching. Because cameras can capture images. But they cannot capture genuine connection. And genuine connection is what changes lives. Now here's the revelation nobody expects. The people around you begin noticing something. Not because you've told them. Because your energy changes. Your confidence changes. Your smile changes. You seem different. Happier. More focused. More alive. And they cannot figure out why. That is why silence remains important. Because unfinished stories attract opinions. And opinions create confusion. Protect your peace. Protect your happiness. Protect what is growing. Not everything needs to be announced. Some things become stronger when they remain private. Remember that. The strongest diamonds are formed under pressure. The strongest relationships are formed away from noise. And the strongest transformations happen internally before they become visible externally. Then one day, the moment arrives. The moment that once felt impossible. The moment you never expected. The moment that changes everything. A conversation turns into an invitation. An invitation turns into time spent together. Time spent together turns into something undeniable. And suddenly you realize that what began as an impossible idea has become reality. Not overnight. Not magically. Step by step. Moment by moment. Choice by choice. And when you finally look back, you understand something incredible. The biggest surprise was never meeting someone famous. The biggest surprise was discovering that they were simply a person searching for the same things everyone searches for. Trust. Understanding. Respect. Connection. The things that matter most. And perhaps that is the lesson hidden inside this story. Never place limits on what life can bring into your path. Never assume certain doors are closed. Never believe extraordinary experiences only happen to other people. Because the future has a way of shocking those who think they have already seen everything. So continue moving forward. Continue becoming the best version of yourself. Continue believing that unexpected opportunities can appear at any moment. And if life places an extraordinary connection in front of you, treat it with gratitude. Treat it with patience. Treat it with wisdom. Because the most incredible chapters often begin quietly. Then one day become the stories everyone talks about. And by then, you'll smile to yourself. Because you'll remember that long before anyone else believed it, you felt that something extraordinary was already on its way.